The 24-25 Women's Super League is on winter break and it gives us a perfect chance to assess every team's season so far. We discuss whether they've met expectations in the first half of the season, what transfers they need to do in January, and predict the second half of the campaign. Now we're on to West Ham. It's been a rollercoaster of a season with West Ham as they've seen a number of matches decided late on. They've scored the most goals in the bottom half of the division but also conceded the third most in the league. We discuss how they construct defensively whilst maintaining their attacking potency. This is our mid-season review for West Ham. Alright, let's get into it. The final one of our WSL mid-season reviews, and today we're going to be talking about West Ham United. West Ham, who spent a bit of the season propping up the bottom of the table but now find themselves in 10th place. Is that indicative of how West Ham's season's gone, that it went down and then up again? Does that summarise it quite nicely?
No. To be honest,
No.
I don't want to... I'm not going to... Not to be so harsh, but without the Crystal Palace result, West Ham would currently be bottom of the table. And I think it is fair to say that from the first half of the season, that Crystal Palace game where they went 2-0 down and somehow won 5-2 is the only reason we're not sat here going, they're going to get relegated. Because, to be honest, they've been pretty much even. And that says a lot. The fact that I performance-wise and the way their results have gone, I think Palace and West Ham have been pretty much on par. The only difference is one huge game against playing against each other that West Ham managed to win that I think they should have never won. And I'm not saying that it's like... Yeah. It's not they should have never won it. They deserve to win the game. But what I'm saying is that from a position of 2-0 down, you should never win a football game 5-2. That's incredible. That rarely ever happens ever. So well done to West Ham for doing that. Yeah. But that shouldn't have. That was very unlikely that was going to happen. So if you take away the second half against Palace, they'd be rock bottom of the table and we'd lost 2-0 to the newly promoted side. And for me, that would look like a torrid season.
They were 3 top at half time, to be fair to West Ham.
Oh.
They did really well to recover it quite quickly. What I will say as well, just to challenge that, is that you'd think of the Everton game this season, where if Camilla Says hadn't scored an own goal, they would have won that match. You think of the Tottenham game, where if Camilla Says hadn't scored an own goal, they would have drawn that match. You think to the Brighton game, where Frank Kirby scored in the 8th minute. There's a lot of instances this season where West Ham have been quite unlucky, and it's not only been Camilla Says. I think, defensively they've not been brilliant, but they have been unlucky quite a few times. Defensively, they have conceded the third most goals in the league, but they've also scored 12, which is more than anyone else in the bottom half of the table, which I think shows a lot about West Ham. It's a very strong attack. You've got players like Rico Ueke, who's a really good player. Vivian Assayi, who I think is also very good. We've seen in recent weeks Manuela Parvi come to life in that team. Yeah. Katrina Gorey is one of the top midfielders in the league on her day. And there's been some games this season, I think it's that Brighton game in particular, where she just decides she wants to score some goals and does, because that is the type of player she is, a phenomenal player. And so I think, yes, you can say that Palace result, where they were half asleep for the first 15 minutes, may have been fortunate, but equally I'd argue that to come back in the manner they did, and as emphatically as they did, I think shows more about how strong that team is than how weak it is. But I do agree, they have shipped too many goals this season. They are over-reliant on times on Kinga Shemek making some good saves. They are over-reliant on Katrina Gorey doing literally everything. She's crucial in build-up, crucial in creativity, and at times crucial in scoring the goals. And so I see there are some concerns there. But I actually think overall, West Ham's underlying numbers show that they're quite a decent team. They have just been quite unlucky this season.
Yeah, they have game changers, and that is why they're in the position they are in. Because they've got, as you say, Gorey, who can just decide on occasion that she wants to win a football game, and she will single-handedly do that. Ueke can be a decently consistent goal scorer, and when you've got Assayi, who can also be a decent, consistently goal scorer, when you put those two together, it means you get a consistent run of goals, and it works. Yes, they don't have a player that I would say delivers every single week, but they've got 3 or 4 players who deliver every now and again. And because you combine them all...
I think Gorey delivers every week.
Yeah, okay, Gorey does, but in terms of an attacking sense, you've got Ueke, Assayi and Pavi there who haven't all... I wouldn't say they've all been consistent, but because they've all popped up in different games, it means they've looked good going forward in different games. And you have to factor that in. Peter will say, well, they're just getting fortunate because they've got a few players. But as you pointed out, you have to have those players in order to do that, and you have to put them on the pitch and in a system for them to play well. And yes, Gorey's been brilliant, but you you have again. You don't just put Katrina Gorey on a football pitch and she plays brilliantly.
Katrina Gorey may be the exception to the rule,
okay.
but I get your point. And
Forget Katrina Gorey here. She's out of this world. Everyone else that applies to.
Yeah, I think their attack is functional. I wouldn't say it is clinical. I wouldn't say it's prolific, but I do think it's functional. And I think it's enough to keep them in the league. The fact they have got those individuals. I think their defence there are still some gaping issues. I think Anouk Denton's a very good attacking fullback. But the problem with having an attacking fullback of that calibre is that you need to have the rest of the defence in a shape, in a structure that means they can cover for that. And that hasn't really worked this season. Zadorsky can't really cover big, wide spaces. Tisiak, I think, has been, not bad really, but just inconsistent. And then I don't think when Lee's been particularly good. Camille Says has just not looked great when she's played.
No.
Way too error prone. I mean, she just, every time the ball comes at her, she tries to block it, but it's in a manner that often means it comes spinning off of her. It's why she's notched up 2 own goals this season in crucial games. It's because her blocking is a bit too aggressive. If anything, allowing the shot to go through to Kinga Shemek would be much safer. And so I think there are just some small irregularities, small inconsistencies that are costing West Ham. But I think overall they are quite a decent team. I think structurally their attack is quite good with Vivian Asay coming on in off that left-hand side. We've seen at times this season Ueki and Pavi drop a little bit deeper to receive the ball. I think that's quite effective. I think Poibel's quite good at keeping the width on the right-hand side. And so it does work in that regard. And it gives space for Katrina Gorey. Basically everyone else operates to pull space or create space for Katrina Gorey to operate in. And that is working. I think a little more consistency in front of, a better defence and a little more consistency in front of goal. West Ham are a mid-table side. Yeah. But the problem for West Ham is that seems to apply for everyone in the bottom lot at the moment, bar possibly Palace and maybe Leicester. You look at Everton at the moment and the signings they're making mean they're probably ahead of West Ham in most people's estimations, both in the table and in people's estimations. The same applies really for Liverpool, who the table lies sometimes, and that is a big lie because Liverpool should be higher in the league, and the same probably is true for Aston Villa. So, yes, West Ham, I think on paper are a decent side. They have some strong attackers. I think it is going to be difficult in the second half of the season. I don't think they're in any trouble being relegated right now. They could be if Crystal Palace and if Leicester get their acts together. But I think West Ham will probably be okay just ticking along the results as they are. The problem for West Ham is going to be how do they take that next step. Obviously, they've got to focus this season on staying up, but I think they'll do that. The question then becomes how do they take that next step?
Yeah, very much so. They lost Sissoko and they lost Shibitsu in the summer. Very much so. Defensively they have struggled without them, I think. And as you say, for West Ham, the fact they're 3 points out of the relegation zone is not a bad position to be in. They were a favourite. I think they were They were definitely in that conversation on par with Crystal Palace as being favourites to be relegated. The fact they find themselves at the halfway point in the campaign and they are 3 points ahead of that relegation spot is not a bad position to be in. But as you say, Leicester are a couple goals away from being a side to be reckoned with, and Crystal Palace, if they can, just sort themselves out defensively, if Palace can sort themselves out in both ends of the pitch, then that they also could cause a conversation. And I do think it is still close between West Ham and Palace. The fact they've got that points difference could be absolutely crucial. But as I said, Leicester are one player short from being a good side. So are Crystal Palace, but so are West Ham. One or two players tidy up a little bit, just cut out the errors. Camilla says, I'm not going to say single-handedly, because yes, she stuck it in her own net, but there were other factors in those games. But her 2 own goals have meant that West Ham have dropped 4 points this season. Though that 4 points can, with how tight the battle is, those 4 points takes them up 1 or 2 positions, I believe. And
well, I see them rise up to 6th in the league. But yeah, I think when you talk about West Ham, you've also got, obviously you mentioned Sissoko there. They also lost Hanoko Hayashi this summer, which is another big loss. And I think that has cost them defensively. But they are only 8 goals off the goals they scored for the entirety of last campaign, and we're not quite at the halfway point yet, which is that bodes well. I think that West Ham put themselves in a decent position. They finished second bottom last season. They seem to have jumped Leicester. They're in a position where it could be touching them and Everton. I think they are making ground up on certain teams. They've definitely improved in the attacking in the final third this season. It's just whether they can shore up their defence, because they are in a slightly shaky position. But again, they're not quite at half as many as they conceded last season. So if you think about it in that sense, West Ham have improved. I think the overall quality in the league has improved, and Brighton jumping up quite a few has has meant that there is less opportunity to jump up. I know Liverpool and Aston Villa are down at the moment, but I think they'll get back to their standard level of performance. So West Ham, how you view West Ham season depends on the lens you view it through. If you say that they need to be higher because of because of the fact that Villa have been off the boil, because Liverpool haven't been, then maybe they should be higher. But I think when you consider where they were last season, you look at where they are now, I think the season's been relatively successful.
Yeah, I think the majority of people were saying that West Ham got very fortunate last season that Bristol City were as poor as they were.
Yeah.
And I think West Ham came to the season needing to prove a point. And when you look at it on the whole, as it stands, they're up a position from where they were last season, and they have got that gap to Crystal Palace. I think you can argue they have come in. They have proved the point. They have proved they can put up a fight. That they aren't. No, West Ham.
Oh, sorry.
But West Ham, they've come in and they have shown that they can fight against those bottom of sides, and that they didn't just. It wasn't that they stayed up through poor performance from other teams last season.
Yeah.
It's that they stayed up because they do deserve to be in this league and they can play football at this level. They've got to repeat that in the second half of the season. If they do. We spoke about other clubs who may be on the fall. We said yesterday that Tottenham have got to be careful. Aston Villa still haven't got a manager. So there's a chance for West Ham, if they get their act together, to start jumping a couple teams, and then at that point they could finish 9th, 8th, and that is a superb result.
Yeah, I think that is very true. Let's talk January. Focus is probably going to have to be that defence, isn't it?
Yeah, very much.
Maybe a more defensive midfielder to allow Kadrina Gory to be that creative midfielder would be helpful. But I think they'll be looking defensively. I think if they can add a centre back who is a bit more consistent, a bit more reliable, I think that would be handy. I think if they could get a right back who's more defensively minded, I think that could be helpful. Overall, I think it's about keeping it going as it is in terms of attacking areas, but structurally being more solid, being more compact in the defence.
Yeah, I think that it is that organisation factor that is absolutely key. It's that leadership. It's a player who just a little bit of know-how potentially of, obviously it's hard to find hand-picked players who have been in this situation before and know what it takes and know what performance is needed and can find that level consistently. But just if they shore it up at the back, as you say, Everton, I don't think they've got world-class centre-halves. They've got a teenager is one of them for starters.
She's a good player, though.
She is a very good player. No, I'm just saying, yeah.
I get your point.
But, they're not well-beaters, but because as a team they've been compact and solid and they've been organised and they've worked together, they've kept it pretty tight at the back in certain games this season. West Ham need to do that. They don't need to bring in world-class centre-halves. They don't need to bring... They need to bring in centre-halves, but, in terms of... They can get by without them. If they just, as a unit, if they shore up properly and start to just dig deep, be a little bit deeper, be a little bit more solid, then they will start to grind out more results. They will concede less goals. So it's not necessarily...
Same applies for Leicester.
Yeah.
Think of how they've performed. That's what West Ham have got to be watching, especially with playing Chelsea as the first game back in the WSL. They've got to be watching those Leicester clips, because if not, they could find themselves on the end of a bloodbath, and suddenly they've gone from conceding the first most goals in the league to the most. And they won't want that. Yeah,
and when you think about, they've got the FA Cup game against Liverpool, which isn't an easy tie. They've got the League Cup quarterfinals. I think
It's very busy January.
It is. I think as much as as much as they'd want to be in the League Cup semi-finals, it won't be their priority. But again, I think with Tottenham's performances, will West Ham look at it as an opportunity to get into the last four of the Subway Cup? Potentially so.
I think they absolutely should be. I think they should be looking at that game as an opportunity, as you say. I think that should be a game where they go, you know what, if we lose, we lose. It's we'll focus on the league. If we win it, who knows? I think the pressure's off West Ham, and that could be to their gain. I think they'll be hoping they can beat Tottenham in that game. As I say, though, tough game back for against Chelsea. If they avoid a bloodbath, that's okay, I would say. After that, it's Everton, Liverpool, Brighton, Arsenal, Manchester City. It's a bit of a difficult run, to be fair. That Everton game is important, and then Chelsea again in March. However, the positive, and then Manchester United after that in April. The positive is after their final three games of the season are Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, and Leicester. So if they are in a position where they do need those points, that is the time to pick them up. There'll be it's sort of a catch-22. Either you play them now and you get in a position, you can't change them, but I mean, in terms of how the fixtures pan out, if you play them now, you can get those wins under your belt, and you've just got to hope that's enough. If you don't play them till the end, which is the West Ham's case, they've got to hope they're in a good enough position, and then the pressure's on. But if they can win those 3 games, then they'll be fine.
Yeah, very much so. It's that points versus power kind of debate. Would you rather have the points and then defend what you have, or would you rather have the power that you have the chance to change your destiny?
The fixtures,
come the end of, yeah. So it's one of those based on unless something drastic changes. I think the fixtures are the way around they'd want them, because I don't see Palace and Leicester at the moment. I don't see them both coming out of the blocks and playing some nice football and leapfrogging West Ham, and then that's where the pressure will build. So I don't think that will be the case, but if it is, then West Ham are going to have to be careful that they are ready to deliver in those final games.
So then predictions for the second half of the season. Liverpool in the FA Cup is probably going to be a loss, if we're being honest.
Probably. It depends who Liverpool got fit. We know they haven't got Matt Beard on the sidelines, so that's already one person they haven't got.
But Herbinger is expected to be back. Even if she doesn't start, that could be useful. Haug is expected to make the bench, both big for Liverpool. We could see Sam Kerr make her debut for Liverpool as well, obviously just joined on a loan. So I think it's going to be a really tough game. I don't think they'll win that one. League Cup, to focus on the Cup first, then we'll get into WSL. But League Cup, probably going to lose to Tottenham, but I could see them winning it.
Yeah, if they'll either lose to Tottenham. If they beat Tottenham, they'll lose to Chelsea or Durham. They might beat Durham, but they're going to lose. Let's be honest. If we're being realistic, they could beat Tottenham. They would lose to Chelsea if they got through.
Yeah. WSL then, I don't think they're my favourites to go down at the moment. I think they're probably all right. So we will see how that season goes. Is that your same thinking?
I think they'll be okay.
10th is probably where they're going to finish. It's where they are now. It's probably where they're going to end up.
And I think they'll take that. I mean, I remember seeing the New Year's resolutions thing that Barty WSL was going. Kinga Shemix was to improve her performance and stay healthy and happy while improving her game. Vivian Asais was to score a bicycle kick. So if that's the story for how West Ham's 2025 is going to go,
I want to watch more West Ham games.
I think they're going to be in for a cracker, because we could see brilliant defensive performances where Vivian Asais scores bicycle kicks.
Yeah, I hope she's now just constantly trying bicycle kicks.
I spent the whole winter break just in training, just getting people to lay the ball in the hand, just bicycle kicking.
Wait for that Chelsea game.
They're going to lose
kick off
5-1. It's just a bicycle kick.
It's all bicycle kick. Yeah.
Great. We'll see what I think they're in for a good 2025 though. It might either way have to be entertaining by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it always is with West Ham.
Yeah,
in every domain, always entertaining with West Ham. But yes, Rayan Skinner, do you think she's fairly safe in the role for now?
Yeah, I think as long as she keeps from the league, I think she's absolutely fine. She's doing what she needs to do.
Do the fixtures mean she could get sacked though? Because if they are in a position where they don't pick up, you think now between now and March, Everton's the only game you look as a must win. But if they were to lose a load of those, they could easily find themselves bottom. Would they consider changing manager in time for the final 3 games of the season?
They'd have to be harsh with it, because what they'd have to do for me is they'd have to have a manager lined up, but they'd also have to do it at a point where they give enough time for the new manager to have an impact and to actually change their fortunes.
They could probably. You've got a gap between the 30th of March and the 20th of April.
So I
wouldn't be surprised if they lost to Chelsea heavily in that game away, that they sacked Skinner and gave a different manager a chance for the final 4 games of the season.
Potentially. The thing is, Skinner's done well West Ham. She's been consistent with them in the last couple of years. I don't see them becoming ambitious anytime soon, based on West Ham, how we know West Ham. And it depends.
The owners are quite ambitious. I don't know how ambitious they are about the women's side.
Yeah, that's the thing. They've got to show that.
But I'd be surprised if Karen Brady doesn't see that as an opportunity.
Well, yeah, it depends if Karen Brady can get a word in there with the other people in that boardroom. But overall, I think Skinner, it will be fine unless West Ham decide that they have ambition, that they have desire to climb the league, because I don't think Rayan Skinner is that manager.
Yeah, I do think that West Ham famously, if they are in a situation where they're bottom of the league and there's 4 games left and they do need to win some games, they will probably sack their manager. Yes. And they will probably bring in David Moyes. We will see. But I'd
say the men's side just sack Lopetegui, bring him in. Don't do that.
But yeah, I think he would be the best coach in this game, but they won't be able to afford that.
No.
But yeah, I think that it's interesting. West Ham should be fine, but it's hard to say. And they've got some I think the fixture list isn't kind, but they are in a position where they are struggling and need results. The final 3 games of the season are really nice. So Will be interesting to see what happens. That, though, I think is everything for this video and rounds up our WSL mid-season review. I hope you have enjoyed all the content over the last 2 weeks. We are back on Sunday for the Women's FA Cup. I'm
Finally.
very excited.
Finally.
I know, we have not streamed on this channel since the 18th, I believe, of December, 19th of December, something like that. It's been far too long, but we are back this weekend. FA Cup action. We're going to be covering Chelsea versus Charlton, so join us for that live from 2:45, and we'll be keeping tabs on those other games as they roll in. There's a load of 2 o'clock kickoffs, a load of 1 o'clock kickoffs that will still be going on as we're live. So do join us for that. It will be an entertaining afternoon, hopefully. And of course, amongst those 2 o'clock kickoffs is West Ham Liverpool.
Yes.
So we will be keeping tabs on that at least the second half. So yeah, should be a very exciting Sunday of FA Cup action. Then we're straight back into the campaign, which should be good.
Yeah.
That was everything from us today. Go and check out the rest of the series. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.